Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name's Izzy and I collect cool to hot growing orchids here in my apartment in Sydney. Today I've got a what's in bloom for you, including some exciting first time bloomers and also a couple of orchids that hadn't flowered for me until I recently made some changes to their growing conditions. So I'm going to flip the camera around and let's get started. So the first orchid that I'd love to show you is my Bakerara sea snake Unforgettable. This one you might have just noticed was in my intro. And if you've watched the first video on my YouTube channel, which was my orchid tour, this is one that I said at the time I was actually rather unhappy with because it had never rebloomed for me since I first got it. And now here we are. It's kind of hard to see from this video. I might zoom out a little bit for you. This spike is quite large, and it actually has a second spike as well over here that hasn't quite opened yet. Oh my goodness. So this is one of the ones, as I just mentioned, that I changed the growing conditions for, and it almost overnight produced a flower spike for me. Well, not quite overnight, that's a bit of an exaggeration, Izzy, but it quite quickly realized it was happier and much happier than the conditions I was giving it inside, and produced this almighty spike. Basically, I was growing this one on the shelves behind that you can see down here. It was down here in that first video that I filmed. It wasn't unhealthy by any means, but it just never bloomed for me. It produced quite a large new growth after I got it. But that one never bloomed, and then it produced another new growth, and I thought, oh, here we go, this might be good news, it might be going to spike, and it never did until I moved it outside, and I'll show you in a minute where I moved it to. And I think a combination of a couple of things, the extra airflow that it was getting from being outside, probably a little bit more light, being an oncidium type, they do appreciate slightly higher light levels than possibly the grow lights were giving it. My grow lights are okay, but you know, they're never as good as some natural light. And also probably the cool down overnight that it was getting as well, I think really helped it to bloom, which was fantastic. And also I'll show you the leaves as well. So when it was inside, this is one of the growths that it had. Its leaves were doing this really weird kind of like misshapen, misformed type of thing. Turn it around a little bit for you so you can see a bit better. But see how, I don't know, it's just got a bit of like a weird kink in this leaf. There we go, that's a little bit better. Yeah, like a weird kink in the leaf, and it's kind of like stuck together there. The bulbs themselves look quite healthy. They're kind of a little bit wrinkly now that it's in bloom. But then, this is the new growth it's now flowering off. These leaves, spin it around again, whoa, mind the flower spike. These leaves are in such a better condition than the other leaves. They're not squished together, they're really wide, they look really healthy. It's just done immensely better being outside. So if you have one of these and it's not blooming for you, I definitely recommend changing it, moving it outside, giving it a bit more airflow and light. It has just taken off. And I said in my first video that, you know, it might be one that I'd consider not keeping if it never bloomed for me again, but obviously here we are. I'm absolutely in love with this one. I love its spidery looking flowers. They're really striking. They're sort of yellow and like a burgundy sort of color with a bit of red and yellow on the lip. Everything online that I can find says that this orchid isn't fragrant. I find it to be a little fragrant, like it's nothing really strong at all, but it does have a little bit of a sweet scent that's really nice. So I wouldn't necessarily get this one for its scent, unlike a couple of other oncidium types that I've got, but this one's name being the sea snake Unforgettable, it is definitely unforgettable. And I have forgiven it for not flowering for a couple of years for me, because now this spike must be at least a meter long almost and it's produced that second spike over there as well. So super happy. It is technically an intermediate to warm grower. I'd say the temperatures that this one gets during the day at the moment being sort of autumn probably about sort of 16, 17 to, at the moment, it's getting up to still about 26, 28 degrees Celsius. And then overnight, I believe it can deal with temperatures down to about 7 degrees Celsius, but around sort of 13, 15 degrees Celsius overnight is sort of what it's been getting now that it's starting to cool down during autumn. And this one, I do water still every couple of days. Its roots are really vigorous. I'll show you its roots now. Roots are still really vigorous even though it's in bloom. You can see there's quite a lot of roots in there. So it is quite tight in the pot, which it also really appreciates. So I used to soak this one like I did with a lot of my oncidiums, but I've been finding actually that they're doing better. Sorry, that's not really focused. I've been finding that they've been doing quite a bit better not being soaked so much. Some of the bigger ones, like my Oncidium raspberry chocolate, I do still soak because it's really vigorous, and if I don't soak it, then I'd probably be needing to water it almost every day. But this one, every now and then I do give a bit of a soak, but generally it just gets watered, rinsed through with the mist function on the hose, and fertilized once a week generally. This was one of the very first Oncidiums I purchased, this one and the Oncidium raspberry chocolate, at the Mingara Orchid Fair on the Central Coast in June of, I think it was 2022. 2022 or 2023, I can't quite remember. But yes, I can't remember which vendor I got this one from, sorry. But it's not necessarily one that's going to be really difficult to find, I can't imagine. I think you can get it online from places like Orchids R Us, that sort of thing. So have a little Google. Some spots online, this one's still called Bakerara sea snake, but other ones that I've found is called Antherara sea snake unforgettable. So I'm not too sure, maybe they've changed the name. But if you just type in sea snake unforgettable, it's an oncidium type due to the growth being the pseudobulbs, so you should be able to find it, or at least find something very similar. I've just come outside to my balcony to show you where I keep this one as well. Because it's got such large leaves, it's impossible to fit on these orchid shelves because they're too small. So I actually just kept it on the ground here for quite a while, and which is where it produced its flower spike. It does get some morning sunlight, and then as you can see at this time of day, it's about midday now, it gets sort of filtered, but bright filtered light, no direct sun and no afternoon sun that's going to burn the leaves. So yeah, it's been really happy sitting right there, so not complaining about that one. Okay, so this next orchid is a very exciting one that's in bloom, because this was one that I've never actually seen flower in person, and it's not flowered for me since I've had it until now. This is, according to the label I've got, Coelogyne Massangiana. I think that's how you'd say it. But there's a few things online, and I think that its name has actually now been changed to Coelogyne Tomentosa. So correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know in the comments if you know. But it's a Coelogyne type orchid. It's one of my only Coelogyne type orchids. I do have some Dendrochilums that I believe are basically the same type of orchid, or family rather, but this is my only Coelogyne one. I really like this one. I think it's quite different to a lot of the other Coelogynes that are available, and let me tell you, this orchid, probably about 2 weeks ago, I first noticed that it was in spike. And when I say I first noticed it was in spike, oops, sorry, don't mind the motorbikes. Its spike was probably only this long 2 weeks ago, and it is now opened about 2 days ago, right? So basically two and a bit weeks from first having a flower spike to being fully in bloom. I think this is definitely the fastest growing spike, and sort of from noticing a spike to when it's being open and almost in full bloom, like there's only one more to open out of my whole collection. So that is very impressive from this orchid. It's also scented as well, which I love. It smells sort of like burnt wood or sandalwood type scent. It's fairly sweet, but also a bit sort of spicy, musky scent. But yeah, burnt wood is probably the best way to describe this one. It also has a really gorgeous lip as well, with like little yellow frillies on there too. And the flowers are quite sparkly. It's kind of hard to show you. don't know if you can see from that shot. It almost like shimmers in the light. Oh, so pretty. Really, really happy with this one. It's a really beautiful looking flower. The cascading blooms are also really nice. I really like how it looks. But I cannot get over how quickly this one went from, oh wow, there's a flower spike, to being in full bloom. Whether it was we had some warmer weather over the last couple of weeks, so maybe that's helped it, and it's been fairly humid as well. But I don't know, maybe it's really appreciated the weather we've been having. And this one is a cool to intermediate grower according to what I can find online. And in terms of light, I'd say sort of low to medium. Coelogynes don't really like any direct sunlight. It doesn't normally live here on this table. It lives actually behind me on those orchid shelves over there. I'll give you a close-up in a minute because it's very sunny at the moment. It's causing some shadows that aren't that pretty to look at. Yeah, low to medium light. So this is a really good one if you have run out of space for really high light loving orchids. And it has been very easy, very low maintenance for me in terms of watering. This one likes to stay relatively moist most of the time, but it doesn't want to be waterlogged, so it's done really well being on these shelves. I'll show you where it normally lives. Okay, it looks very chaotic here, but it's only because there's quite a few leaves in the way. Basically, it normally lives in this spot here, but I've just moved it while it's in spike. It is on these shelves so that it can get a lot of air circulation around the whole pot, so that it's not necessarily sitting in water the whole time. And as you can see, it gets sort of dappled sunlight, so it still gets quite bright light at this time of day, but it's not direct sun. The leaves are, I'll show you again, the leaves are in really good condition, they're not burnt. A couple of them came to me and they'd been sort of cut, but I assume maybe it was in a spot that it was getting a little bit too much light, and then they've sort of cut it to make it look a bit more nice for this, when they've been selling it. But this one, yes, it still has it on the pot. That 9 is because it cost me $9. $9 for this orchid. So yeah, I mean, I'd say $9. It's pretty worth it if you ask me. Its bloom show is beautiful. I cannot believe how quickly it has bloomed. I don't believe these ones last long though, so they've only opened, what are we now? It's Saturday now. They've only opened 2 days ago. So haven't been open that long. We will see how long it lasts for. I'll try and keep you updated with that if I can. And you can see it's got quite a few growths. Only 3 of them have flowers. Only 3 of them have leaves, so I think they do lose their leaves over a period of time. But yeah, very, very happy with this purchase. Definitely would recommend this Coelogyne if you can get your hands on it, particularly if you can get your hands on it at such a low price like this one was. Okay, so the next orchid I'm very excited about. Any of you that like miniature orchids or that have a really small grow space like me, oh, I might have to move this one so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Ooh, this is, on my label, I have Unforgettable Radicans. I believe it's now called Gomesa Radicans. Oh my goodness, its flowers are so cute and tiny that they're kind of hard to show you. Let me just try and zoom in here. There you go. You can sort of see them a little bit better there. This is a miniature type, sort of Oncidium almost type orchid that came from Roland Orchids in Queensland. Oh, this is one that my husband actually found and really liked. I had never really seen it before, and he requested for Rob from Roland Orchids to bring it down to one of the shows he was coming to, and oh my goodness, it is so cute. It has so many flower spikes. Let's see if I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. More than 10 flower spikes, I would say. More than 10. It is another sort of low to medium light level growing orchid as well. So if you've got space where you can sort of tack one on, probably outside, I'd say this one has done better for me. And when we first got it about a year ago, I did have it inside hanging on those orchid shelves because I was a little bit worried about the temperature. I didn't want it to get too cold outside coming from Queensland, so just to sort of acclimatise it, it was inside for a couple of months until spring came and it sort of started to warm up a little bit. Actually, now I say that, we haven't had this one for more than a year. I think we got it in June of 2024 we would have gotten this one. This orchid is native to Brazil, and it is fragrant. It has like a spiced honey fragrance, I would say. So it's really nice. And I also read online, where's one that I can show you, that its flowers resemble a dove. Can you see that? Like its little head and its little wings outstretched behind it. Oh, super, super cute. And this one produced, it produced its flower spikes quite quickly. It took a long time to open. Like, I want to say we probably noticed the flower spikes maybe about a month ago or longer, like 4 to 6 weeks ago. And it started opening probably last week, and they all sort of pop open like little popcorn. It's really cute, and they all open quite quickly. There still are a couple of spikes, as you can see, like this one here, that are a bit further behind and they haven't opened yet. But it's put on quite a display for being such a small orchid. These flowers are, I'd say, about half a centimetre in diameter. Yeah, half a centimetre. So they're really small. If you're not a fan of really tiny flowers, you may not love this one, but if you want something miniature that has a really pretty display, and it's really pretty colours, they're sort of like green, burgundy and yellow. I feel like that's a bit of the theme of this What's in Bloom. A lot of the flowers are like browny, greeny, burgundy colours and yellow. It is super nice. I really like this one. This orchid is known to flower mainly in the spring and the autumn as well. It didn't flower in spring for us, it's just flowered now in autumn. And even though it's so small, it produces so many new growths and so many flower spikes, it becomes sort of a specimen-sized plant pretty quickly, I would say. It also does seem to really like being mounted. When I first got it from Roland Orchids, he had it mounted on a small piece of cork, which seems to be his preference when mounting his orchids. I've actually changed it to a piece of cork bark, and you can probably see as well I've got some sphagnum moss on here that's gone a bit green from sort of being out in the sun, and I've just tied it all on with fishing line and a little bit of sort of like a green garden tie to sort of hold it to the mount a little bit better. It's got heaps of new roots, heaps of new growths, and it is an oncidium type, so it flowers from the new growths, the new pseudobulbs. But yes, if you're low on space, this is a real cutie to have. And I just love that they look like little doves. I didn't notice that, and they actually do. Oh, so cute. So cute. I love it. Okay, now moving over to this shelf, I've got a very exciting Dockrillia in bloom. Okay, so this next orchid is Dockrillia Australian Purple Pepper. This is an Australian native orchid. I believe it must be a hybrid. It's not a species. It must be a hybrid from King's Orchid Nursery. This one we also got at the same time as that Gomesa Radicans at the Mingara Orchid Fair on the Central Coast in New South Wales, but it is quite a different looking Dockrillia from the other ones we have. You'll be able to see its leaves are really fat, like chunky leaves, as compared with the one right next to it that are more pencil-like. You can sort of see these ones are more like long pencils, and these ones are more like fat leaves. They're really cool. They're almost succulent like, being a native. And you'll see down here these spikes have faded, but they were in bloom really recently. It produced 4 flower spikes for us. The first 2 bloomed, and then the ones that I just showed you before are now in bloom. They don't last that long when they're open. I've noticed maybe only like like a week to 2 weeks when they're fully open. And it does have quite a spicy, peppery fragrance as well, which is lovely. And you'll see that the petals are quite purple peppery, as the name describes. There is a photo, let's see if I can take this out without knocking the whole orchid off the thing. That's the photo of the orchid. So that's the only reference we had to it when we purchased it. It is very, very similar. Ours has slightly less yellow on the actual petals, like you can see in this photo. Doesn't necessarily have all that yellow around there, but the labellum is definitely yellow. And the one in the photo has some darker spotty bits than our one, but sorry, it's really not focusing. But it is really nice. It's very different from the other Dockrillias I've got, which are more green and spidery, like long open flowers. These ones are more sort of like bell shaped, but really lovely. And when this one gets big, I can imagine when it's got more than 2 spikes as well, oh, it's going to put on quite a show. They're decently well clumped together, which looks really nice as well. Very happy with this one. Would definitely recommend, if you don't have any Dockrillia Dendrobiums in your collection, they're definitely something really cool and different to have. And again, another one that's actually really low maintenance. This one just lives on the shelf out here. Whenever I water any of the Dendrobiums or Catasetums on the top, this one gets a bit of water. It is in a mix that's mainly, I'll show you, mainly chunky bark and bits of charcoal. So really free draining mix. These ones would also do extremely well mounted also. There's another one up here that's just in like a mesh pot. The mesh pots do pretty well because at least it allows them to drain freely. But I mean, this one has done really well being in a pot, and it hasn't minded being watered almost every day when the ones above get watered. So yeah, just depends on your growing conditions, but I'd probably look at mounting this one in the future when it gets a bit bigger. Probably is a bit easier to take care of because they get so long and cascadey. Probably easier having it on a mount than in a pot once it's larger. Okay, so next little guy on the list. This one you may recognize from a video I did a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. Let me bring it over here to show you. It's probably actually easier to having laying down like that, to be honest. This is Gastrochilus Japonicus. So yes, this one I featured in my orchid haul video, the first orchid haul I did at the start of this year. So yeah, it would have been a couple of months ago in January. And this one was in bloom when I got it and has now produced another flower spike and bloomed again. So I'm very, very happy with this little guy. It must be happy because I did move it from the pot that it came in onto this cork mount, and seeing as it's bloomed again, it mustn't be too unhappy with its growing conditions. Having moved down from Queensland as well, it's probably a little bit cooler here than the conditions it was getting from when it was at Roland Orchids, but obviously it's sprung right back from being posted and repotted, and it's done it all over again. So this one is also scented as well, and it's a miniature orchid. I can't remember if I mentioned the scent. I would describe as like a lemony jasmine. It's kind of citrusy, not as citrusy as what things online might say it is in my opinion, but it definitely does have a note of sort of citrus, but it's more sweet like jasmine. So yeah, citrusy jasmine is how I would sort of describe this one. And I just love how the little labellums are like a little cup. I think you could fill it with water, but they do look like kind of like a little frog when a frog ribbits, which I love. It's kind of a weird way of describing it, I know, but yeah, it's funny because this one, it's obviously sort of growing downward. It's produced its little flower spike underneath. But that's okay. Maybe it will grow up next time, or maybe it will just stay like that, which is, you know, that's fine too. Whatever it wants to do, it can do. I'm very happy with it. I love it. I think it's very different from anything else that I've got in my collection. And I love the colours. I love the little spots inside of that lip there, and the contrast between the yellow and the pink and the white actually, I think is really, really nice. This one as well is another low to medium light requiring orchid, so another one that you can sort of tuck in wherever it fits with some dappled light. I'd say definitely growing this one outside is probably better than growing it inside. and its blooming season is normally said to be summer and autumn, so that seems to fall about right. It blooms once in summer and once in autumn for me, so not sure, it may not bloom again until next summer, but we'll see how we go. It surprised me with this flower spike, so you never know what it might do. I didn't really properly show you before actually where I am growing it. It's just hanging on the side of my Vanda stand, so near, these are a couple of Sarcochilus and there's a bulbophyllum as well above, and it's facing actually towards the inside of my apartment, so it gets fairly dappled light. It doesn't get really any direct sun. Maybe the only sun would come sort of this way in the morning. It would get a little bit of sun, but as the sun goes over throughout the day, it's quite dappled light. It's quite shaded. So yeah, it really doesn't need that much involved care by any means, and it's an intermediate grower, so it's really happy with Sydney temperatures. I'm not sure what I'll do during the winter, if it will be too cold, if it gets sort of under 10 degrees overnight, to have it outside, but I'll just keep an eye on its leaves. If anything starts to yellow, I might bring it inside. But if any of you do grow this orchid around this area, please let me know in the comments if yours stays outside year round, because I would love to keep it outside year round. That would be really nice and easy, but I mean, if I have to bring it in, I'll bring it in. It's not that big of a deal, and because it's so miniature, it'll definitely be able to fit inside if it needs to. Alright, now, lucky last orchid that I'm going to show you is actually one I cannot take the credit for the blooms for. This one we actually just bought off eBay. I might bring it over here for you. It's currently on a little seedling mat, just acclimatizing. There we go, you can see it much better. So this one is Dendrobium Penang Little Magic, which is a cross between Dendrobium Lacanthiera, if I'm right, crossed with Dendrobium coronii. So coronii, I believe, is the smaller of the two, and I think Lacanthiera can be quite large. Don't quote me on that. Really, I just love this one because its flowers are so cute. I love the antelope dendrobium types with their little curlies. And the reason I've got this one inside at the moment is I believe the Lacanthiera one is, I think it's intermediate to warm, and I believe coronii is warm to hot growing. So I don't really want to give this one too much shock. Like, it's not cold at the moment. Today is a 26-degree day. It's overcast and 26 degrees, so it's not that cool, but it has been cooling down a little bit more overnight. And because this one did come from Queensland, I just want it to have hopefully a smooth transition to its new growing conditions. And I did not expect this to be in spike, let alone such good conditions of the flowers after it's been in the post. So yeah, super cool, super happy with this one. It's also just really nice to see an antelope dendrobium in bloom for me, because I haven't, all the ones that I've actually got at the moment are still quite small. I mean, this plant is actually fairly small. It's not a huge one. Hopefully it takes after, seems to take more after the coronii than the other one, which is good because I don't know how I would fit it if the canes are like 2 meters tall. Okay, give you a bit more of a close-up, but the colours on this one is really what drew me to it. I think it looks quite like a sunset sort of colour, like with the orange fading into the purple, fading into sort of the darker purpley browny red colour. Ooh, it's so nice. I love these ones, and I'm just obsessed with the antelopes. I really hope that they all can do really well here. I know some people do grow them in Sydney. Other people say it is quite risky growing these sort of ones in Sydney. So a lot of them are sort of trial and error. I've got quite a few mounted ones outside that are actually doing quite well and growing now. But they did take a bit of time to sort of acclimatize when I first got them. So I will keep you updated on how I'm going with these ones and how I'm growing them, and whether or not I find I have to bring them inside over winter. But man, I could just sit here and film this one all day. It's so beautiful, and I really hope the flowers last a little bit longer so I can really appreciate them. This one only really arrived in the post maybe about 4 days ago, so it's still super fresh in the collection. And I also actually got a variegated Dendrobium, which was a bit of a gamble, but I really liked its flowers, and it's not too variegated, I don't think. Hang on, I'll show you so you know what I'm talking about. There you go. There you go. Yeah, the leaves are super pretty. And this one has green flowers. It's not an antelope dendrobium, it's a different type. It is Dendrobium burana green variegated. Yes, so that one isn't in flower at the moment, but hopefully it will flower at some stage. Got a couple of little kikis on there too. And then I'll be able to give you an update on that one as well. Alrighty, well that's everything I've got for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Please give me a like and press subscribe if you'd like to see more of my orchid content, and feel free to pop a nice comment down below if you'd like to. Maybe let me know which of today's orchids that I showed you was your favorite. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!